Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Barnburner TV network on ZINGOTV channel 250. Do not forget to download both the Barnburner app and the ZINGOTV app on the respective stores, iOS and Android. ZINGOTV is also available on Roku, Roku Sticks, Amazon Fire Sticks, Google Chromecast, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. It's free. Download it today. And how's everybody doing out there? Great evening to you all. I'm Scott Schertzen, and this is Tales from the Film Set, where we share all of the dumb stories and experiences we've seen in film, the good, the bad, the ugly, and sometimes the really stupid. Alongside me are my far better co-hosts, Ms. Jasmine Block-Krempels. How are you, young Ms.?
Doing great. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too. You too. We're just a few days away into 2021. Where the series Mad Max took place. So let's not forget the fact that we may be out of the frying pan.
It's not that far off. Now that I'm thinking about it, we're like going in that direction very quickly. So exactly. It could happen in 2021.
And you know what? Why not? We'll handle it. Stats, long time no see, man. How you doing?
No, it's been all of 3 hours?
I know. So what have you been up to since I talked to you 4 hours ago?
Oh, I had dinner. What did I have? I had chicken. I just found out that Oreos is coming out with a s'mores flavor. So that's
oh, dear
exciting.
God, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
There goes my diet.
That is the diet, the Oreo s'mores diet.
All I'm eating is Oreo s'mores.
I'm pained to say I actually put on about 4 pounds over the holiday. I'll burn it back off. It's not a big deal. But that I am literally the heaviest that I have been in 4 months right now. And it's kind of embarrassing on that. So anyway, we got a few stories we're going to tell today. Mentioned in some of the tweets that I'd sent out about talking about Tracy Morgan dancing a little bit, how to impress family members with a film festival, and of course, really stupid background actors. Background actors have affectionately been referred to by people like Woody Allen as props that eat. Basically, those background people are the ones that are sitting in the chair while people are far more important are actually holding dialogue. Those people walking down the street, sitting in a chair, sitting in the court gallery during the big, dark, dramatic scene, where Benson is up on the stand trying to testify and all these things in Law and Order. And they literally get paid to sit on their butts and eat too. So we're going to be sharing some stories about that. I'm sure you guys got a few stories of your own. But you know what? Start this off and just fix that light there. I don't know what's going on. The USB is a little weird right now. It's got a little thing going on there. Jasmine, how's it going?
It's going good. I didn't get a chance to ask you. I want to know how you started doing background. Everybody's got a silly, because I can tell you right now, no one ever says when I grow up, I want to be a background actor.
God, you know what? And that's really sad. Everybody wants to be a doctor or a lawyer.
I just talked to a student who was really upset about having to be the only kid on camera for this class I was teaching. And he's like, I just want to be there's people around, but I just want to be in the background. I was like, have I got a job for you? I said, you need to wait till you're 18 because you don't want to get your parents involved. And then I have something for you to do that seems like right up your alley. You will never be told to say anything. In fact, you will be told to be quiet 8 million times a day.
Yes.
And all you do is sit and pay attention, and you can get paid. You too can get paid. So this one kid was very interested, but that's the only person I've ever talked to. So how did it start for you?
How did it start for me? You know what? I'm going to return that question to you guys as well.
Okay.
All right. So back in April of 2010, I was a financial advisor. I was, doing classes and seminars at Seton Hall, Montclair, William Patterson, just teaching finance out the wazoo. And I literally got burned out. There's something, I'm not sure how you may feel about it, but the idea of doing things like selling life insurance on full commission is not something you really want to do with your time. Really, the biggest problem that I had was the fact that I hated the sales process. Teaching I could do. But going in front of the room and 60 salespeople and writing your numbers on the board in front of everybody for everyone to see how you did the previous week and how your month is going is a really uncomfortable thing and puts you in a hell of a bad position. So looking at getting burned out, I was trying to explore different career options. I went on a job interview for an IT position and then realized that all my IT skills that I had went right out the window, and I didn't understand a damn thing this man was asking me. And I stumbled onto an ad on Craigslist to do background work in TV shows. So I was like, kind of always wanted to do that. Getting an IMDb page was sort of on my bucket list. So I ended up meeting with this guy over in Montclair. One of those guys who's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you some headshots. We're going to get this look going. I'm going to get you out on stuff. Trust me, it's going to work out great. By the way, the headshot guy is right next door. It's only $500. You know, we'll get it done. Bida bob, bida bing, bada boom. We're going to do it today. And every part of my sales side was just cringing. You know how basically you have, you know, those bad salespeople that make you feel really uncomfortable? Imagine if you spent years teaching bad salespeople. So every part of me was like, dear God, this is the worst situation possible. Every part of me except one. My gut told me do it. My head was creeped out. You know, my chest was feeling uncomfortable, but my gut was like, go with it. Something in this was like, go with it. So there I was, just going literally next door. I hadn't shaved, no hair, makeup, anything like that. You know, and I got these headshots that were kind of like basically my equivalent of an Italian guy in like Soho in the 70s. You know,
I hear that's very popular.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's like
Were they black and white?
What's that?
Were they in black and white?
No, it was color. And I wore a red shirt, by the way. You know, which you never wear a red shirt in headshots. But to the guy's credit, he took these disgusting, horrible headshots and he started rolling me into background work, getting 15% of my non-union $85 for 10-hour rate. And I started actually ending up in TV shows. The first one I ever did was a show called Lights Out, which lasted 13 episodes and was promptly canceled by FX. And I was really excited because I got to see Stacy Keach, you know, AKA Mike Hammer, and somebody throw a water bottle on stage because that's what the scene required. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I didn't have to sell anything. You know, I remember getting there and my coming from the corporate world and coming from the sales meetings that I had, I was used to paying for lunch. So, you know, you get to the lunch spread and you got the buffet, you know,
your wallet out. You're trying to pay the guy at the end of the line.
Yes. Literally, I'm like, I'm literally asking, how much does this cost? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, it's like, you know, I'm sure it's like $10, $15. And he's like, no, it's free.
Oh, then he should have been like, but for you, $10.
I know, right? You look like a nice guy. I'm only going to judge aid, you know. But no, I was blown away. It's like, okay, so I'm going to, you know, it's not like a sales meeting where I would have these things where they would charge you $10 at the sales meeting to literally eat, you know, lunch, which, by the way, when you bring guests to meetings and they find out they have to pay or you pay for them, it hurts the reputation big time.
Right.
So I was blown away by it. And I actually felt a little bit guilty because I saw all that food and I didn't really think I was allowed to have it, you know? So that was how I got started. The first day ever was April 28th, 2010.
Wow, look at you.
My first 2 gigs were Lights Out. Gig number 3 was the Smurfs movie.
Oh, that was I remember that.
Yeah, it was. We did overnights in FAO Schwartz, I believe it was.
Yeah, when FAO Schwartz still existed.
Yes.
Yeah, not the one in Rockefeller Center that I was hanging out in like 2 weeks ago. Because it's like it's a small store. They have a smaller store in Rockefeller Center now, but literally right next door to the tree. I don't know if it's a pop-up or what, but that was our satellite holding location.
I thought it was on 55th Street or something like that.
It's where didn't they build the Apple store?
Yes, yes.
Into the old FAO Schwartz, and then and then they have that little storefront in Rockefeller Center to just sell some sweatshirts or something.
But fun story from the FAO Schwartz set. So I can kind of, everything's out in the world now, so I can tell everyone. I was working on Hawkeye for the 2 weeks that I was out.
I wanted to ask you about
December.
that.
Yeah, so I was standing in for Jeremy Renner.
Nice.
And we're in FAO Schwartz and walking around, and he goes in the back and there's all this Marvel stuff. And he posted a picture on Twitter of him, like, look, because there's a glass case. So he's on one side. They took the picture from the other. And it's a picture of Thanos. And he's like, oh, Thanos. And we were joking. We look at the guy working the register. I'm like, don't you really wish you had some Hawkeye stuff right now? And he's like, yeah. He goes, because let me tell you, because we were looking at, like, there were some really nice, like, figurines and statues and stuff. But he was like, man, if I had a statue, I would ask him to sign it. He goes, it would be the most valuable thing in that case right now. I was like, oh yeah, but it was good. He's super chill, laid back, but it was so funny. He's like, just looking around and going, nothing? Like not even a little, not even one little figurine. Like I think he might've been in like a box set of like the Avenger, the big one. Yeah, like the whole like the ensemble one, but there was nothing like solo for him. We were just like, oh, it's a bad look.
Are you allowed to answer this? And if you can't answer it, it's okay. Don't I don't want to put you out on this one. Is it more of his endgame look, or is it something new? And if you can't answer
that, yeah, I won't answer it just because I do like.
I know. I've stood in on Marvel projects before. I know how absolutely strict they are.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if maybe it was something he had posted pictures online, in which case it's a different conversation.
Yeah, no, he's got whatever. It's stuff online. He didn't really post any, him and you see Haley Steinfeld in one of her costumes. That's about it. Like we were pretty covering everything up. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to. I was like, I'm not ruining this gig, man. Somebody pointed out to me, they go, there's a lot of people who are your height in the Marvel universe. Don't mess this up. I'm like, I know.
That's why, it doesn't matter what you've got going on. You find a way to continue it because you can be easily replaced by so many different people on something like that.
Yeah, it should be very interesting though. Like from what we only, like I said, we shot on location for a couple different episodes, but the storyline seems really interesting and definitely something I'm looking forward to checking out.
It's Disney Plus too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they seem to be taking a lot of the stuff in the Disney Plus direction.
I was hoping they were gonna offer like a SAG discount for Disney Plus. Doesn't look like that's a thing.
Nah.
No.
I mean, it's only like $8 a month, so it's not. I don't think.
Yeah, but if you add them up to all the other ones you're paying for, it's like you got to purge some of them out.
Yeah, it's good to do the. I do the package. I do the Hulu.
Oh, with Hulu.
I did too. Yeah.
It's totally worth it just for that. Yeah, because like every now and then I jump back on ESPN to watch a game, and Hulu is like really it's a great substitute.
Hulu's impressive.
Yeah, like when you have like once like Netflix drops its latest thing and you're done with that, it's like, oh, go to Hulu and like great old movies, they've got Golden Girls on Hulu, which is like amazing. Like I started watching that a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh my God, like B. Arthur is just like when somebody posted a video today of like, it was a joke. Like one of my friends who's a parent, it's like, when I want to get out of the house and my husband comes home, it's like, where are you going? To get ice cream or commit a felony? I'm not sure which one. I'll decide on the way. But oh my God, this is what I missed from like great sitcoms is that
I had Hulu on 2 minutes before the show started. So I literally had it loaded up while Brooklyn Nine-Nine was playing, snuck in that episode, finished it up, and then literally rolled down here to the basement, and had Zoom loading while I'm bringing my laptop downstairs. But yeah, Hulu, honestly, I never planned on it, but then when the reboot of Animaniacs came out, I'm like, all right, I'll link it in with Disney and it'll be fine. But there's so many out there. I mean, Aaron Paul, I think had, what was it, The Path?
Yes.
Okay. He's a cool guy. He's a really chill man. Wow. I was blown away by how laid back that guy was. I don't know. I can't remember what else Hulu has as far as like filming in the area.
They've had some stuff here and there.
Yeah, it's a little slow for them right now, but pending what happens in LA, because I know they're asking productions to stall for COVID. Like they think the COVID rate is just too high, even though they've been strictly following the protocols and whatever. They just feel like if other businesses are shut down, then really filming shouldn't. Apparently there was a letter sent out Christmas Eve saying, hey, and obviously everyone's on break right now anyway. It's like, hey, can you stall for a couple weeks? I don't know if it was like a strongly worded letter or just a suggestion or whatever, but I think they're gonna be in trouble if no one's making content for a month.
Yeah, no one wants to stop. Like, I think with Hulu stuff that films here, I know two things were Rami, and Monsterland. And Monsterland was interesting because Monsterland is like, very rarely do we get the import shows like that are set in other places, and Monsterland is like set all over the like country, and it like filmed in New York and New Jersey. I'm like, oh, okay. Like the pilot was in New Orleans, I think, and then it came up here. Like I shot the episode I worked on was like the storyline took place in like Portland, Oregon or something, and it was all over. But they were actually really cool too because I did one episode for them, and when it aired, one of my friend Kate Costanzo, who stands in with me a lot, she's like, hey, have you watched this yet? Like, we have screen credit. And I'm like, what? And I like jumped on my episode and I was like, oh, they gave like 2 or 3 stand-ins every episode screen credit. And I was like, oh, nice. I'm like, okay, that's pretty dope. Like you get it occasionally, like on movies, it's more common, and very rarely do we get it on episodic stuff. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, add that to the old IMDb page.
I was gonna say, well, IMDb, you could just add it yourself anyway, because IMDb will literally let you add whatever you choose to. Yeah. And we know some background people who have done that. who basically give themselves full credits on IMDb and have an IMDb rating in the top 500 because they have been in every single major movie with an IMDb credit out. Because they
2012, the number one rated person on the star meter was a background actor who was in The Dark Knight Rises and Perks of Being a Wallflower. The only two movies they were in. And someone's like, who is this person? And we looked them up. We're like, oh, it's an extra. Like, this is pretty funny.
Dark Knight Rises, my IMDb rating did skyrocket. It blew up because of it. But I gave it, I mean, okay, yeah, I did give it to myself. But I mean, hell, I sprained a knee on that shoot. I'm allowing myself an IMDb credit.
So, Rob, how'd you get started?
I started as a stand-up comic originally back in like 2005. And luckily, the two guys who kind of mentored me, I started with my best friend, John, who now lives in Texas. He got me into comedy. And we used to do this little dive show, like it was called the Mickey Who's Comedy Show. And it was in Bloomfield, New Jersey at this place called Hathaway's. It was literally down the street from Bloomfield College where I worked at the time.
My first stand-up gig.
Yeah. Oh, did you do Mickey Who's there too?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we were probably there at one point then, because I was there for a while. Like, and I got
heckled on stage by a guy I brought with me for some moral support. He drank a literal gallon of Blue Moon and heckled me on stage and mooned everybody.
It was one of those wild rooms. Like, you'd go there and be like, what's gonna happen tonight? Mm-hmm. Like, I literally saw like the host throw pick up someone up and throw them off the stage one night. But the two guys were Mickey Loesch was a commercial actor in the 90s, and this other guy, the late Jerry Allen Cole, was an actor, did Broadway, did some soap operas. He was one of the Furies in The Warriors, one of the baseball guys. So that was like super dope. Like, I love that movie. And after the shows, we'd go out, hit up a diner, typical Jersey thing, like diner at like 1, 2 in the morning. And you're like, oh, did you ever think of doing acting and stuff? Because like, you're very, like, based on how my stand-up was, they're like, you're very prepared. Like, you don't just get up there and wing it. Like, your stuff is scripted. Like, you memorize everything. And I was like, I don't really want to be like the stand-up comic who's trying to get his own sitcom. That seems so cliche. And they were like, dude, just try background work. Like, it's a paycheck. Like, it'll get you experience being on set. So I was like, all right, I went, registered with Central Casting, and like Scott, I took my headshot for Central Casting with a big bright red polo shirt on. But my first show was Law and Order, the original, the mothership. And I get featured as a juror. And everyone's like, how did you get, like, people would like die to get on as a juror because they always pan to the jury. And it was me and like the first friend I ever made in the industry, like as in TV and film, was my friend Paula. We worked together for a couple days. And from there I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. You know, I'll try it out. And then did a Selma Hayek movie called The Rebound. That was like one of the first like cattle call that I was on, and started to see, like, learn real quick. Like, it was like 300 people. I remember these two guys dipped out in the beginning of the day. Like, one guy goes, yo, just text me later, I'll come back. And like 10 hours later, his boy texts him and he shows up and he's like, yeah, you got my voucher? And dude got paid for a day. Like, it was never even there. Like, no one knew. I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun industry to work in. And then just kind of worked my way up. I bought into, at the time, it was 2 separate unions. So Jerry was like, yo, buy into AFTRA, start doing some union shows through AFTRA, and then worked my way up through a bunch of AFTRA shows, like stand-in experience. And then we merged in 2012, and the rest is history from there.
Nice.
All
right. And that leaves you, Jasmine.
Well, so I came from a world of theater, so I was just like, this film stuff, I don't know, those people are weird. Like, I only do singing and dancing. But my first summer after, I taught school for a year, and it's like summer, I was like, well, what do you, hey, teachers, what do you guys do? They're like, we all work at summer camp. I was like, this doesn't sound good at all. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. I got to do, you got to work, got to do something. So, a couple of years, I think 2006, I was in an off Broadway show with someone, and how you just haven't seen someone in like years. I got on a bus at the Willowbrook Mall into the city, and someone from the cast was on the bus. I was like, oh, like, what have you been up to? And she's like, you will not believe it. I've been in movies. I'm like, no, you haven't. Like, that's not a thing. She's like, oh yeah, no, it's a thing. You go to this place called Central Casting, and like, they take your information. I was like, this already sounds shady. Like, they take all of your information, they take a picture of you, and then they just call you. And I was like, well, do you like talk to them? She's like, no, you don't talk to them. They just look at the crappy picture that they took of you, and then they call you. And I was like, well, this is like like a thing I could do over the summer, and like, you know, obviously it was non-union, but I was like, you know, I remember auditioning for film and TV as a kid, and I never booked any jobs. So I was like, well, this is my chance. I guess I could like sneak in as a background actor and check it out. And you know, some were paid, some they said were going to be paid, and then they weren't, and you know how that goes. But then ultimately, Gossip Girl came along, and we all know how bad the union pay was on Gossip Girl, and they would literally take anyone who looked like they were under the age of 30 to play the high school kids. So I got my 3 waivers from Gossip Girl in 2008. So I feel bad even saying it because I worked for less than a year. I worked one summer and, you know, a couple days here and there, and somehow ended up with 3 waivers. And I was able to join SAG separately at the time. And then I think there was some sort of strike, and I ended up paying to join AFTRA. And then of course they merged right after that, as we all know. But yeah, I remember someone asked me if I would stand in for a kid, and I was like, oh yeah, sure. They're like, well, have you ever stood in before? And I was like, well, I've watched other people stand in, so I just said yes. Like, oh yeah,
That's how it works. Yeah.
Do that, yeah. And then I was just like, well, I guess I'll just figure it out. Like, as long as you follow instructions, how hard could it be, right? And then the majority of my work, probably in the last 4 or 5 years, has been standing in for kids, which has been really good, except now there's like hardly any kids working right now. So, which I understand they're trying to keep the minors off the set for COVID, but you know, that hopefully that'll come back. But I do enjoy that. I enjoy kind of like the technical process of it more than I would not call it acting, what you're doing on the other side as far as background goes. It's more just like controlling your desire to just yell at everyone doing everything at the wrong time.
I'm the same way
acting,
though.
I guess that's it. But something that was really appealing to me was that in my regular like day job for teaching school, like I'm in charge of a lot of kids at one time. Like I can have up to 100 kids by myself alone. And like just the logistics of controlling that many people is like kind of exhausting. And this was the complete opposite. I'm in charge of nothing. I do not have to keep track of who went to the bathroom, who was like poking the other person with their drumstick, like nothing. This was just like, you show up at this time, you do what you're supposed to do, you go home and you get paid. I was like, this is awesome. Like,
and you eat.
Oh, wait, free food, because we don't have that at school, okay? Yeah. The food thing to me was a little weird. Like you said, I mean, I didn't try to pay, but I was like, I also didn't understand if you got a waiver, you could eat the SAG food. Yes. I was like, we can't eat this. They're like, well, you can because you have a pink one. I'm like, yeah, but it says SAG only. They're like, yeah, that's you today. I was like, I don't get this at all. But taking the food like as fast as possible before someone said, you know, you're in the wrong line. But, you know, those were the good old days where, you know, the poor non-union were getting like a box of peanut butter and jelly. And then
the box lunches days on a lot of shows.
I never minded that though.
I didn't. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
You know, I mean, when I moved out of my parents' house and lived on my own, I had $90 a month for food expense, you know, and basically whatever life I had. So it was ramen noodles and corn for me, like 5 meals a week. I was happy as heck. It's like, all right, you give me a cheese sandwich and a bag of potato chips. God bless you. You know?
Well, and of course there's breakfast, which is like you really are getting 2 meals if you show up early enough. So,
but don't forget, you got the people like, okay, so they don't really have anything, you know, for breakfast that I really like here. You know,
that's more for me then.
You know, I mean, the breakfast quesadilla, I don't like it a little bit. I feel like the chicken was a little overcooked. I mean, okay, my bacon, egg, and cheese burrito here, I felt it was a little greasy. And it's like, dude, shut up. You live in a studio apartment, you know, with like 3 other people. You know, you bring a backpack to set so you can steal literally everything at the craft table and 78 granola bars. I've watched you do that.
Those people are hurting right now because you can't steal anything from
not on the new system.
One of the wildest stories about breakfast, like it was on the Deuce a couple of years ago. Some guy walks in and it was late call. We were doing a night shoot. This actually might have been like the same night that what we were talking about earlier, Richard Haas, when he wiped out Gnarly.
I might have been the same day. I'll talk about that later, so.
And this dude comes over, and our sound guy, the Italian dude from Long Island, Vinny's standing there. Background guy walks over, picks up one of like the fish fillets with his bare hand, and like looks at it. He's like, and puts it down. And I wasn't looking, and all I heard was like just expletives, like what the beep beep, what? I don't want it. He goes, but you touched it.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
like, now he goes, and then you put your hands on two other ones when you put it down. He's like, you're gonna eat them? He goes, because he's got to throw them out now. And this is pre-COVID. And our food guy was this guy, Steve, who lives in the area by me. And he's just like, what are you doing? And he's like, what? And he's like, and the thing was like, there were tongs right there. We're just like, oh my God. And I'm like, somebody like, we're just like, Vin, it's fine. And Steve's like, I'll make, he goes, you want one? I'll make you a fresh one. He goes, no, he goes, I don't even want the fish. He goes, it's just the point that you put your bare hand in there without like an animal. And he's just losing his mind. And I'm like, and he's a pretty chill guy. Like even on set, like never, and you just knew like this was like that trigger. We're like, oh, so like, okay, let's just get him in the studio before. I was like, he's gonna pick one of the pans up and just start wielding it like it's gonna be ugly in about a minute.
One of the dumbest things I ever saw or heard was on the movie Wolf of Wall Street. You know, so you got Scorsese, you got Leonardo DiCaprio, and there was a guy that they handpicked to be ridiculously featured. And so by this particular case, they literally spent the entire morning on one scene with Leonardo DiCaprio and this one guy side by side. The entire morning was spent like this. They didn't finish the scene. They went to lunch. They were going to pick up the scene afterwards. During lunch, the guy tries to skip out, goes on an audition during lunch. The subway gets stuck.
Now he's gonna call them.
So like, he is literally stuck in the subway, which it's for whatever reason is completely delayed. He is delayed for over an hour. And again, this is a scene that had to be finished, and it was just this guy and DiCaprio. Scorsese is losing his mind. DiCaprio is losing his mind. They're like, where the hell is this guy? He thought he could sneak out, do this audition in Brooklyn.
Fair, lunch is your time. However, you should build your travel time. You know, oh, I have an hour. Yeah, but really I only have 10 minutes because I got to be on the subway for 30 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
he tried
that one through.
He tried to go from Manhattan to Brooklyn and back in the half an hour or hour. And like I said, the subway got stuck and there was no service either, so he couldn't call anybody on top of it. He was probably fired off. So you get people like that try to get a little bit too greedy with it. You know, you get people like we talked about, you know, that sit there and handle food by hand, you know, the whiners. You get the people that, and then this was my favorite, the ones that are so proud. And you know who they are, the ones that are sitting there talking about, well, I was super featured in this YouTube series. I'm in a web series right now. The channel has 8 subscribers at this point. The video got 5 views, and you see me featured at the 37-minute mark on the right side.
All the people who subscribed didn't even watch it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, usually with YouTube subscribers, usually it's about 5 to 10% of subscribers actually watch anything you do.
I mean,
that's the statistic of the number.
I just assumed it's all the people in it, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But that's part of your contract is you have to subscribe to the channel when you're in the project because you need more subscribers.
But the point being is that you get these people that are so fired up and so proud of the fact of the second coming for this thing which got nothing. A couple of months ago, I can probably talk about this now. A couple of months ago, I ended up doing a co-hosting gig for basically it's a QVC startup. We worked out a pretty good deal on it. You know, went out there, shot it in Long Island for a couple of days. So I'm sitting there, I'm doing the hosting thing. They've got 2 other hosts there. You know, and we're back and forth. And they brought in this woman to model some of the clothing. She was not a model. She was basically Jesus with a little bit of practice, a little bit of time and effort, might be able to reach her level because she came out with her mom. And her mom was so convinced that she was the greatest thing to ever set foot on the planet. And she kept talking about how she was featured in this thing. And she did this thing over in this other show. And she did, this feature thing. The daughter never spoke to anybody. She spent the entire time playing on her phone and never looking up. And it was funny because he tried to interact with this woman and there was just no response from her whatsoever because conversation with anybody else is not worth her time. You know, I am not going to waste my breath, you know, and the air that's going into my lungs and into my nostrils on you.
I
Because
tell you what, some of those parents, like, you know, I don't know how often you work like a kid's playground
Oh my
scene,
God.
which is always somehow where I end up because there's always like a featured principal kid who needs a stand-in. So I'm always there. It's always a day. It has to be a holiday where school's closed. So all these kids can come work. So guess what? Like I'm there with all the kids. The parents that show up to usually I don't have a problem interacting with the children. It's probably because it's like what I do for a living. And like, I'm perfectly comfortable, like entertaining 10-year-olds. Their parents, I can't deal. They're like, well, he got the lead in their school play. And I'm like, well, for what? That's not a real thing. Like,
I was
okay,
just gonna say the same thing. Like that's I was gonna say that next. Like that stage moms or set moms are worse than anything like that. I dread it because for a while I was like similar thing. Like I would always get called up for like school scenes. Like, hey, we need a teacher. Like, hey, can you? I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and I've worked with kids before. Like with Sneaky Pete, we had kids on set all the time. So I was like, yeah, whatever, man, no problem. And I used to tell our PAs, I was like, good luck. Like the holding PA, I'm like, good luck. I was like, because you got like 8 stage moms, set moms. I said, they're going to be, I said, not all of them. I said, but there's going to be like 2 or 3 that it's just going to be one thing after another, trying to one up each other. Whose kid is better? They say, yeah, like Jasmine was saying, it's like, oh, well, we auditioned for this commercial and we got picked for this. And it's just like, and then you see like, and it's funny because I've learned to like kind of sit there and like, okay, whose kid do I want? I want the one that's not a headache. And I'm like, who's your kid?
You're like trying to run down the line and be like, which kid seems like the least of a jerk, who seems like if you're like, hey, little buddy, like stop talking now, they're not going to be like, like,
yeah, because if the like, parents that bad, like you got to worry about how the kid is, and it's just like, and actually, I remember like similar to Scott's situation. Remember the show Eye Candy? It's an MTV show that filmed here for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Victoria Justice was in it, and
when she was probably like 12.
Well, she was old. She was like 18. She was up there.
18? Yeah.
But they said like, because we used to always joke about like Katherine Heigl's mom is considered like one of the worst set moms, like momagers, because she's her manager or something. She's considered like one of the biggest headaches in the industry, or was. But they were doing something with Victoria Justice's one day. They're driving to set, and she's from Florida originally, and her mom's like, yeah, like they want you some like national parks thing. I don't know if you even, and the PA, like her assistant's like, aren't you from Florida? She's like, yeah. It's like, well, there's the Everglades are in Florida, and that's a national park. And she's like, oh, is it? Like just, but had no clue. And it was just like, and they said like, she was a sweetheart. Like she, you know, everybody has their ups and downs, but the PA's like, for the most part, like Victoria was nice. Like, hey, everything's good. And it was just kind of like, you could tell like, she was just like, mom, stop. Like after a while, and you see it with the kids, like just regular kids. Like sometimes they're just like, oh my God, like they're embarrassed. They're just like, okay, like I don't really care.
I'm not your mom. I'm not my mom's nest egg.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like they need to put a PA on the parents. Usually there's like one PA that's in charge of like wrangling the kids or whatever. But really you need a PA to keep the parents offset. They're always trying to take pictures. Like it's like, hey, you can't walk. Like they just see other people walking, which are actually like background people. Like, hey, you can't just walk here and take a picture. Like we're all working. So there always ends up being like one sad PA that's in charge of like holding the parents like in wherever their locked zone or whatever, where they can't like leave their area. But it's just like, you know, it's a little weird to me because on like in the professional theater world, parents are not allowed on like you drop them off with the child wrangler, who is also their tutor. Like you drop them at the stage door and you come back when they're done. They do not hang out on set. They do not hang out for rehearsals. And like, I thought that was just like a thing. Like your parents don't hang out with you at work. Like they go to work wherever they go. And like, however the child labor laws were written, or I don't know, but it's like, no, the parent actually has to be there. At least one parent has to be on set under the age of 18. I was like, well, why do you want all these extra people hanging around? But it's just the way, you know, the way the child labor laws worked out. But I know people that are professional, like child wranglers for Broadway. Obviously they're not working right now, but that's what they do. They keep track of the kids in all these casts and they arrange for their schoolwork to get done and all that stuff. I mean, that was another job I didn't realize was a job. I'm eyeing jobs for retirement, and child wrangler is one of mine.
Here's a thought. I mean, in all seriousness, On-set tutors for kids is definitely a viable option. I remember on Gotham, David Mahouz, who played Bruce Wayne, he had his own specific tutor that was used, and there would be times that we'd have to hold on, on filming something. So Luis Guerrero, the first AD, great dude. He's like, he still has another 25 minutes of class, and everybody would just meander around and literally wait until he was done with his class day before he went back and filmed. But there's a lot of money to be made in the tutoring side.
Do that is you got to be smart. If you're working around school schedules, you have to have photo doubles where you can shoot the back of them. Shoot you got to shoot the turnarounds while they're doing for the exact time that they're doing school. And then I can't tell you how many times for Clifford, that whole schedule was based on school schedules. And it was a limited school schedule because it was the summer. So they didn't need the 6 hours or whatever maybe it's only 4 hours. I don't know, but it was the summer. So once you hit July 1st, they could cool it with the school. But until July 1st, they had to be in school. And I tell you what, there were 2 photo doubles for each principal child plus a stand-in, and because the stupid photo doubles were also on had to be on a similar schedule, but they had it worked out. And that was, I don't know, you both probably worked at least a day on that, and that was a big part of why you didn't
I never touched Clifford.
So the money was so good because the logistics were so terrible with the kids. Having an entire child principal, first team, all kids, it's a nightmare for logistics. It really is. It ends up costing, X amount more just to get the scheduling right, to have the extra photo doubles, to have the stand-in in addition. It's just the cost is huge. But it's tough. I don't know how you can't do some of these children's books without just a cast full of kids, Yeah. You can only go so old before you're you don't look like you're 12 anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that was just mind-boggling to me. I was like, geez, it's down to the minute. They're trying to think of something they can shoot. It's like you said, those people just walked away. They're trying to think of something they can shoot without these kids. It's how many shots of the field, of the field in Prospect Park can you take with no people on it? It's just
CGI the kids in later.
Well, I think ultimately that's what's going to end up happening because we never got to reshoot.
Yeah, whatever happened to that movie anyway?
So it was supposed to be September. Then it was supposed to be Thanksgiving, and now it's 2021.
By the way, just to give you an idea what 2020 was like, do you know what the highest grossing movie in theaters was this year by a huge margin?
What actually came out in a theater?
Yeah, it was. I think I just saw this and I forget because it was.
I saw it on Honest Trailers today.
Because it was it wasn't a Marvel movie because it was such a big thing, and they're like,
it was nothing in the Disney world.
Yeah, but it was and they're like, this is the highest grossing movie for the year.
No, Bad Boys for Life.
Was it? Okay.
Bad Boys for Life with $206 million was the highest grossing movie by $60 million in the.
Yeah, exactly. It came out right before. Yeah, that came out around February or something.
When we were
right, and a lot of places didn't close down right away, so you could just keep going to the movies for a long time. In some, not around here, but
it did. It beats. That's what I heard. I heard it was Sonic at one point.
It probably was Sonic at one point, but no. The only movie to break $200 million this year was Bad Boys for Life at 206.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Sonic was 180 or something. When
it was
a while ago.
Yeah, but it was so funny. You never would have picked that movie at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
What do you guys think the future of distribution is? Do you think it's changed permanently?
No, but I think it will. I think it's going to go a lot more streaming.
I hope it doesn't, but I think it will. I'm with you, Scott.
I think it's going to be over time. It's going to be moving more towards the streaming aspect of it, especially as movie theater tickets get more expensive, because you don't want to have to deal with the stress of noisy people, driving all the way there, $50 for food, even on some or certain cases. And you like the ability to occasionally pause something to pee and not feel the need to rush back. You basically, have you ever had to pee during the middle of a movie? Do you know how fast you pee to get back to that movie as fast as possible?
I'm not going to make it. So might as well just get up, try not to step on some people. Although
no, I push.
I've only had to leave one. It was Thor Ragnarok. Because I do the matinees a lot up in Richfield at the AMC because I had the stubs. And I was and I usually make sure I go Endgame. I made sure I went before Endgame. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, man, I really gotta go. Like, and thankfully, like it was a matinee. There was nobody that like I think it was like 2 people in front of me, so I wasn't blocking anybody. I'm like, all right, I gotta like just literally. Like I said, I ran out, ran in, and was back.
But they get you because they sell you salty snacks, and if you're gonna have salty snacks, you have to have a delicious drink.
Yeah.
But then, like for the amount of drink I need to drink, like I can't wait another 2.5 hours.
But see,
Sorry.
that's where I think a lot of people like myself would rather watch it, directly. I'm not talking HBO Max or anything, but I mean, when Bill and Ted 3 came out, I dropped the $20 on it. Why not? And I like the idea of being able to pause it. I like the idea of not being captive to whatever $8 drink that they've got. So yeah, certain movies are better. I mean, when I saw Godzilla last year, that was better suited for theaters, or 2 years ago, whenever that was.
Well, you know what? I was thinking that too. I wonder if only certain genres now are gonna, something that you'd actually want to see in IMAX.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only gonna be premium movie viewing, and it's like the rom-coms are never coming out in the theater because, like,
yeah,
you don't gain anything by that. But certainly, like, a lot of I would think all the Marvel stuff, although they don't have to go in the theater now because they got their own service. I would think that's best experienced like on a big screen with the loudest possible rumbling sound you can have. But I don't know. And I say that as a non-theater going person. Like, I don't enjoy the experience of watching movies in the theater. I don't know. Rarely I'll go if I know I'm in the movie and I know I got like good screen time. But if I'm not, like, I don't know, I'm not a movie person, like in the theater movie person. I'll wait till it comes out. But now nothing's going to come out that I'll get for free. So I think I'll just have to pay either way, I mean, while everybody's watching Wonder Woman 84, Soul, and all these things direct streaming on whatever service they got. And I think people are really starting to get hooked by it. I do. I really think so.
I know a lot of people in the industry don't like it though either. Like even directors and producers, like they realize like, and Wonder Woman 1984 has gotten some horrible reviews.
It has.
Like it's been really bad.
They spread quick when everybody has it at home.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like and here's the thing. At least if it's in theaters, like it makes sense because it will change the platform. Like you're going to see a lot of movies. Or you're going to see how much confidence a studio has in the project, depending on where it goes. Because if a streaming service is like, "Hey, we'll give you 150 million for this," like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll take it. Because someone just offered up like 150 mil or 200 million for a project, like a movie to be released on. It might have been HBO.
I saw an
Max
article
or
on that. Yeah,
and I was like,
it might have been the new Godzilla movie, Godzilla King Kong.
Yes, that's what it was. It was Godzilla King Kong. Yes,
they wanted $250 million.
Netflix offered. Like 200 million.
And that won't go into the theater at all. Then
they would have exclusive rights to it. It would drop on Netflix.
Like the other Scorsese movie.
Yeah, The Irishman.
The Irishman.
Yeah, but I mean that movie, like I would go see Kong vs. Godzilla in the theater.
Scorsese's got enough clout that people will actually go to a theater, pre or post COVID, and see a Scorsese movie. I would think he would have not a problem filling a theater. But it was just new, it was kind of trendy at the time to do something different.
I think you hit it spot on though. I think it's like the rom-coms it's going to be a very select amount of, especially with theaters a lot of theaters are going to be closed. Like they're not going to reopen. So it's going to be more of like a premium service. Because like even I loved having Stubs, like having the AMC Stubs membership. Like I would just, if I wasn't home, work out, eat lunch, go kill 2 hours at the theater, drive 15 minutes and be like, all right, I'm gonna chill, watch a movie. And I paid like $25 and I would just like, the girl who worked the desk used to laugh. She's like, oh, now, like, she's like, not filming this week? I'm like, nope, like I'll be here, like here's my days, like I'll be here Tuesday, Thursday, and I could watch 3 movies a week. And I would just go in, and it was great because I would go see movies that I typically wouldn't spend the money on. Like I've seen, there was a Liam Neeson movie, Cold Pursuit, that was like really bad. It's so, if you ever see it, it's like, you want to talk about a movie with like no budget money for stunts. Every kill scene, it just would fade black and the character's name would show up with like a religious symbol for whatever religion they were. And then they're like year of birth, year of death. I was like, it was funny.
That's
it was
actually kind of clever though.
It was. I was like, this is well played, but I'm thinking you have no money for stunts in this movie. Like you're just like, it would be like bang, like you'd hear the gunshot and then it'd be like Tom Smith.
I feel like we should talk about Nonstop since we're talking about Liam Neeson. We'll do that another time though.
Well, is
But
that I was gonna bring that up earlier when the woman said she felt, whoever we were talking about said they felt like they were trapped on set in Toronto. But I feel like the people, was that Toronto? I don't remember what we were talking about.
That was Vancouver. It was Lily Reinhart, Vancouver.
But I feel like the people who worked on Nonstop literally were trapped. Like,
yeah, but they got paid
not
bank for that.
Oh, they got paid, but I think they
$10,000 the average background person made on that for anybody who's on the flight.
What did it end up being?
About $10,000 they got paid for that month.
For the month.
For the month, yeah.
Most of those days were hold days. They weren't
exactly.
Like,
so what would happen is if they would tell you, do not work any of these days. We're going to pay you a day's rate to basically sit on your butt. We'll give you, and then
better than sitting and holding. So I'll sit at home, no problem.
And the days that they actually worked, it would be some days where, okay, they got to yell, they got to scream. There'd be other days where you're just like, pretend you're asleep, spend the day asleep. And
I did a train scene. That was 3 overnights of sleep on the train. But it was like, oh, well, it is my sleeping time. So,
I'm trying to remember. I did it. There was a Richard Gere movie that I had done a few years back.
Yes, it was that.
Was it? Were you on that?
Oppenheimer Strategies?
Is that maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we were always on the Amtrak going into Sunnyside, and we would just go back and forth to Albany and back.
Yes.
And Albany and back, and we're just like, people are getting like motion sickness from the train, like turning around. It's like, well, whatever. I'll just keep sleeping because I got to go to work tomorrow.
What they did to us is they had us at meet at a holding location, and then by accident they drove us to Long Island where they were filming something else, which is now out of the zone, by the way, and then brought us back to the.
I was there that day because I was self-report. Like, yeah, they drove you guys to set 1 and set 2 was in Sunnyside, and we got to set 2 and there was no one there. And so we're trying to call casting. Hey, like, did you give us the wrong location? Literally the place is locked. There's no signs, for people who don't know, there's usually location signs that say like at least no parking. So I know there's something filming, but nothing. And it turns out the PA was with you guys that should have gone to Sunnyside, and they drove you to the wrong place. So we sat in our cars for about 6 hours, which is unfortunate because there were no bathrooms or we're in like residential Queens. There wasn't even like restaurants around. People were like getting angry that there was nowhere to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, on the Joker, they got stuck in the train in the tunnel, and people were peeing between the train cars. I was like,
I remember that too.
I was in LA for Sneaky Pete when that was filming in New York, and everyone's like, I was getting messages like, you won't believe what happened. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm on the beach today, like chilling. I was like, I have a bathroom of my own. I'm good.
Eugene Lin, if you remember, he tore a ligament on that. If you know Eugene.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because it was funny. Yeah, because Eugene, it was funny because he was at my birthday party the day before, and then that day, basically he's all excited. He's like, "I'm doing the Joker movie tomorrow. I'm going to be doing some running stuff and everything like that." So the next day is the day he runs, trips, and literally tears like a ligament in his leg. Oh. And it's funny because the video of that on YouTube got over 1 million views. There was an online petition to try and get that clip into the movie. It never happened. But they tried to get there was actually a rallying cry to get Eugene into the movie based on the fact that he hurt himself in this. Because it got 1 million views on YouTube. I was so fired up to see that.
I got poked in the eye one time doing an indie flick. It was called Wolves. It was Michael Shannon was in it. It's like a high school basketball movie. And one of the takes, background kid, who had been on the bench all day because they had a bunch playing basketball and he just wasn't playing. And he decides he wants to like get in the shot. And I turned because I'm supposed to take the lead character out, who was like, it was funny. He was a high school kid who was like in his 20s with full arm tattoos and everything. This guy, Mike Conscious was his name, I think. And I turn around and the kid pokes me in the eye. And it was like one of the few times I've literally like lost it on set. Like I turned around, I kicked the scorer's table. I'm screaming. I'm like, oh, flipping out. And they come running up. They're like, wait, you really got poked in the eye? I'm like, yeah. They're like, it was right on camera. Like we thought you faked it because that's how real it looked. I'm like, no, it's not fake. They were like, okay, take a breather. Like, it's like, yeah, like they actually
we should start talking some Noah stories.
It was, so you brought up Nonstop and how like being there, a bunch of people from Noah that were on Noah with me went to Nonstop and they just for like the end of 2012, the beginning of 2013, they were just like, yeah, I'm taking a nice summer vacation after this one. Like Mike LaRose, I remember, went from both. A couple other people went right to the other one. And I think in between, before Nonstop, a bunch of them did the Colin Farrell project that was in town too.
The time travel thing or something.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And they were just like, because I did Wolf and then I had surgery and I was out for like a month. And then they were just like, yeah, we're making bang. Like, I was like, oh God, it was like there was just like, and it was insane, like brutal.
Those years were so good because the summer of 2014, I worked on The Intern for the whole summer.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened. But people on that had war stories from Nonstop and from Noah. And the stuff that people were saying, I was like, this is not real. Like,
I have a couple of Nonstop stories myself.
It was real.
How did you keep showing up? Like, what's wrong with you?
You just knew you did the math. Somebody just had to do the math one night, and they're like, "Here's how much money you're making every night to walk in the door."
I'm that guy when I'm on set too.
400, like I think it was Mike or somebody was like, "Yeah, we're making minimum $400 a night to walk in the door for 3 or 4 nights." I'm like, "I'll be back tomorrow." Like bad hip and all, I'll be back tomorrow.
You know, it's funny with Noah. They had contacted me to do it. But it was out in Long Island. Every day was like 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. The wardrobe that they put you in was not dried from one night to the next, so people are getting pneumonia, drying. And
our wardrobes. Yeah, some of the stories were exaggerated. Like, I mean, our union stuff was dried. Like there were some great stories about like mud. Like it was the wardrobe group. Like we used to hear these horror stories. They're like somebody defecated their pants. Like, and wardrobe was like it was mud. That's all we kept telling ourselves. We pulled that out of the dryer. It was dry mud.
You weren't the one. Were you the one on Noah that almost got sliced in the face by a guy with a spear?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy came back.
Guy. Yeah, no, it's background kid dove into the stunt pile. I pulled him back. He dove again, and the second time he hit one of the stunt guys. And I turned as I was I grabbed him by the back of his costume, and I actually ripped the straps off because I pulled so hard. And then I ended up grabbing him by the collar. And as I yanked him back, the stunt guy turned around and the spear went right past my face. We cut, and one of the assistant ADs, this guy Shep, who's on Blue Bloods now. Him and JJ are there. The stunt guy turns around. He's just ready to throw hands. It was like one of the stunt guys I didn't know. And I'm like, bro, back up, because it wasn't me. I was like, I don't know what the dude just ran into the group. I said, but it wasn't me. Let's not. And JJ came running and he's like, it wasn't him. It was not him. And Chef's like, it wasn't him. And he's like, are you okay? Because you almost ate rebar right in the eyeball. I was like, yeah, I'm good. They were harsh. There was actually like sexual assault on that one too. The one night, like we literally had a mercenary hit out on somebody if they came back to set. Like we found out who it was. And thankfully production was like, you need to go. Like, they were like, no, you're not going back to set. It was dealt with. Because there were about 20 dudes who were ready to hospitalize the guy. Like in the rain, we're like, just the first guy who gets in front of him, just throw a back elbow, and we're just gonna trample him. Like that's it.
We're gonna have to wrap this up, but I do want to come back to that. I will say, for the record, though, I couldn't do Noah. I was working Boardwalk Empire at the time. Darn.
How about the one night I get off, because that season of Boardwalk was with the Fratelli gang or something with Bobby Cannavale's character.
Yeah, season 3.
I get a call. I go, hey, we need you to jump over to Boardwalk real quick for a day. We need you to play a dead body. I'm like, okay, because at the time that was my niche. Before I was the naked guy, I was the dead guy. So I show up to like Far Rockaway, and Ben Byland is there, PA, second AD. I'm like, dude, I'm ready to chill. He's like, yeah, your wetsuit's in the trailer. I'm like, funny guy.
Dead body.
I'm like, funny guy. They told you I was on Noah. He's like, no, that's kind of why we asked for somebody who was comfortable being in the water. They never told me I was going to be in the water. I was in the water in Far Rockaway in like late October, floating. Okay. I show up to Noah the next day, and JJ's like, how's it going? And I'm like literally spinning sand out of my ear because my ear was filled with sand from the beach water. I was like, oh. I was like, the one day and the night that I was off from Noah, the power went out and they never filmed. They never got wet. So I had the longest streak of being wet on consecutive days for Noah because I went to another show and got wet.
Lucky you. But hey, you got wet pay. But anyway, we got to wrap this up. Once again, I never actually got to any of the stuff I really, really wanted to get to, which is how this show seems to work. But this show can be heard on 122 different podcast networks between the US, Canada, Europe, and pretty much anywhere else if you want to do it online as well, which is pretty cool. This is going to do it for us. My name is Scott Schertzen. As always, thank you to Jasmine Block-Krempels and Mr. Rob Stats. We got a bunch more stories coming. We're going to have to hammer out some really good ideas here. We want to talk nonstop. Want to talk Noah. I want to talk about the Tracy Morgan thing and the film festival thing next week. I want to get that going. But that's
a
going to do
format, an outline.
I know. It's, yeah. Well, I had one. I sent it to you guys, and then we accomplished 1 out of the 3, which seems to be how this stuff works.
This is not corporate. We do not have agenda.
No, we really don't. But we got to wrap this up. I'm getting the messages from the producer. We're probably already over time anyway. Sorry, Harrison. But thanks as always. Have yourself a great new year. May 2021, may the worst of 2021 be better than the best of your 2020.
Yes.
Have a great night,
New Year, everybody.
Stay